printing press would help spread his spiritual master's teaching so far from his native India. Swamiji wanted Back to Godhead to become as popular as Time, Life, or Reader's Digest. And while it never reached that standard, at least in terms of popularity, it is still a worldwide magazine, 48 years after it was re-established at 26 2nd Avenue. Does anyone know if Back to Godhead magazine is now online? Is it? Is it an online magazine? Anyone know?
It is online, but
you pay for a subscription?
I don't think you can read the full American version. But you can find all the articles. The Indians put up all the Back to Godhead articles.
You're talking about two different Back to Godheads,
Yeah,
one in America,
India Back
one
to
in
Godhead.
India.
That's then you can read all the things.
But maybe differently made for a
They
different
put out
audience.
some featured articles they put on the American webpage, but not all, I think.
And so you can subscribe to Back to Godhead magazine. That might be something else to consider if people become a member, that they get a Back to Godhead magazine subscription, if they're interested in receiving it. So we have all these books, Srimad Bhagavatam, so many volumes, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It's important to read the books, because if we read the books, it sharpens our intellect. You know, if you take a knife and it's nicely sharpened, if you make a cut with it, it'll make a nice clean cut. But if the knife is dull, it just makes a mess. So similarly, if we're not reading Prabhupada's books regularly, we tend to make a mess. In our relationships with each other, we say things that we later regret, or we don't know how to, because the consciousness is not so pure or sattvic. And by reading the books, we become more convinced about the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we become more inspired to read the books. So any comments on that? I wanted to read something from a great female devotee, Yamuna Devi, but before I do that, is there any thoughts from anyone? Or shall I just continue? Okay. So this is a wonderful, wonderful book. It's 2 volumes. Just came out this year. Anyone who met Yamuna Devi, their hearts melted, and they experienced the most amazing prasadam. This is called the pomegranate juice pastime. Yamuna often told the pomegranate juice story as an example of how one had to expect the unexpected with Srila Prabhupada. And one other thing I wanted to say is in Silicon Valley, my godbrother Vaisheshika Prabhu, of course, he's extremely inspiring devotee, but there's at least 80 full-time congregational members, and every one of them is a book distributor. Everyone who lives outside, like, I don't know, do you have the Jehovah Witnesses here in Norway?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're famous, right, for going out door to door. But I mean, how much information is in the Bible about, what does God look like, where does he live, what does he do? It's very minimal. By comparison, our books are just, totally mind-blowing. So how much more important it is to give this literature out. And it's just amazing. You experience Krishna on book distribution unlike any other experience. It's very purifying. And you'll meet people who are like, oh yeah, I got this book before and I got that one. And I used to go to the temple 10 years ago. They may not know that we have a new address here. So it's very important, even just to take an hour a week, just go out, get some books, and go have some fun. or join Janardan downtown. I don't know if you ever go store to store, or is it just only downtown?
Downtown.
Prabhupada also said door to door. It's another way of approaching people, another type of approach. And Vaisheshika has a site, distributebooks.com. and fanthespark, I think, .com, something like that, where all the different techniques for distributing a book is found. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that we're all potential book distributors, but we have to make sure we're reading them first ourselves, and then by reading them, we'll have the conviction that I should not be a miser, but I should make this important wisdom, which can totally change people's lives. Actually, I've heard reports where people were about to commit suicide, but they got the book and they started reading one of Prabhupada's books, and their heart changed and they realized they had a purpose in life. So think of it that way. You're like doing suicide prevention if you're distributing these books. Or at least carry invitations. Everyone should have some invitations in their pocket. I was encouraging this at the Copenhagen temple because you never know. You're at the food market, you're at the laundromat, wherever you are. Yeah, my friends put on a yoga festival every Sunday. Yoga food, yoga dancing, yoga philosophy. You meet the nicest people there. And do someone a favor and give them an invitation. Every time I leave the temple, when I realize I don't have invitations, I'm just like, wow, are you ever a selfish person? Like, come on, think about other people for a change and carry some invitations in your pocket. Of course, if we make them maybe smaller, like that, it's easy to slip in the wallet than if they're big. Just a suggestion. But I know a lot of people use their phones these days, right? And typing information. Okay, the pomegranate juice pastime. Yamuna often told the pomegranate juice story as an example of how one had to expect the unexpected with Srila Prabhupada. In one form or another, a similar scenario played out between Srila Prabhupada and Yamuna several times in India. Yamuna would think her service requirements were concluded. She would then leave or take rest, and somehow Srila Prabhupada would reappear and request her service. When she would finally arrive, he would sometimes say, "Where did you go?" Just like if you're running a kitchen, and if, you know, sometimes people will do a little service and then they'll leave thinking it's over, but no, maybe a lot more to do in the kitchen. So, where did you go? Why were you not here? Sometimes it would be in the nature of teasing, sometimes not. Yamuna, she's speaking now. We stayed, actually this book was written by Dina Tarine, Yamuna's godsister, my godsister. We stayed a short 2 or 3 days in Bombay, and then Prabhupada left for his flight to Calcutta, or so I thought. So I had been engaged extensively in services and was both tired and sick with dysentery. Some pomegranates had been offered that day to Srila Prabhupada, and for some reason I remembered them after he left. So I went to the kitchen, made myself pomegranate juice, offered it to Krishna, and I drank it. And then just sat on the sofa and kicked up my heels. I remember just sitting back on the sofa with my feet up, and then the telephone rang. The voice on the other end simply said, "Srila Prabhupada is coming back and will be there in 10 minutes. And for some strange reason, I thought of the pomegranates. And wouldn't you know, as soon as he walked in the door, he asked for pomegranate juice. It was mystical. Somehow he knew I had taken the pomegranates. So of course there were no pomegranates left. I had to race out and try to find some. And when I finally did, someone came down to the kitchen and said, "Prabhupada wants to know why you were taking so long to make his pomegranate juice." And when I finally walked into his room with the juice, he said, "Why you have taken so long for my juice?" And then he laughed. He knew. He knew what was going on and was just trying to tease me. He was sometimes playful like that. And he seemed to enjoy keeping his servants in a state of uncertainty. Oh, how will I get this service done for Srila Prabhupada? So it was part of the intimacy, the incomparable personality of Srila Prabhupada. Do I have a few more minutes? It's 22. This is Kumbh Mela now. Has anyone here been to the Kumbh Mela? One? Just one person? It's the greatest show on earth. It's like, what, 30 million people? When I went in 1989, I think it was 30 million people all gathered at the confluence of the three holy rivers, Triveni in Allahabad, Prayag. Is it Saraswati or Ganga, Jamuna? Saraswati. Yeah. And so all these, there were people coming down from the Himalayan mountains that were reputed to be several hundred years old. That's the kind of festival it was. Other yogis lying on, thorns and beds of nails. And people, like under the ground with a little sign sticking up, don't step here. All kinds of unusual people. And our camp was the most popular one because we were serving out 5,000 plates of khichdi every single day. And I could talk about myself, but I won't. Anyway, I'll just say briefly, Lokanath Maharaj said to me, Gaura Prabhu, how would you like to speak to the public? And there were 5,000 people under the tent. And I've spoken like to 400 people at a big festival in Toronto. But imagine you're asked to go up to the microphone and go and speak to 5,000 people. It was a little bit of a challenge. I thought, how am I going to communicate with 5,000 people all at one time? Like, they're probably all on, different wavelengths. Are they even going to understand English? I turned to Lokanath Maharaj and I said, Maharaj, what am I going to talk about? What should I talk about? And he said, oh, just tell them how you came to Krishna. How you came to Krishna. Okay. So I started out, we're not the body, we are the soul within. And I was frustrated with material life. And I started to chant Hare Krishna. But as I was speaking, I saw the people were smiling and they were very receptive. And I thought, oh, these people, they probably understand Bhagavad Gita. So I said, Dehino smin yata dehe komaram yovananchara. As the soul continually passes from boyhood or girlhood to youth to old age. Similarly, the soul passes into another body at the time of death, but the self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. And then I saw some people go, Haribol. Wow, they like Sanskrit. Okay. And Krishna says there's no one more dear than one who gives this message to another. Vichatasman manusheshu kashchin me priyakritama. Jai, Jai, Jai. People are getting more and more excited. Wow, this is great. No wonder Jai Pataka Maharaj, Bhakti Churu Maharaj, Chutananda, and so many of my God brothers have gone to India to share Krishna's message, because the people of India, this is their culture from the time they're just a little baby. They didn't have to eat meat and drink alcohol and smoke drugs before finding out about Krishna. This is their culture. This is their lifestyle. This is what they're born with. So I started getting more and more fired up. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva cable. Go the stave, Gatyaranyata. The only way that we can become self-realized in this age of Kali Yuga is by chanting the holy name. Chanting the holy name. Chanting the holy name. There's no other way, no other way, no other way. It's not by Karma Yoga. It's not by Hatha Yoga. It's not by Jnana Yoga. It's only by Bhakti Yoga. And the people are going, Haribo, Jai! And I started getting on a roll. And furthermore, Lord Krishna says, Sarvadharman Parityaja, Mamikam Sharanam Braja. Give up all your nonsense and just surrender to me, and don't worry, you will not be harmed. Krishna will protect you from all your sins. And Lokanath Maharaj is going, okay, Gaura, I was getting on a roll, like, wow, this is fantastic. These people are into it, and they were like reciprocating with me, and I was reciprocating back, and I was on a roll. And it was wonderful. India is so wonderful. And so sometimes people ask, I met a lady in Copenhagen, well, if India is so wonderful, why did you come back to the West? I said, to meet people like you. because you're devotees. And it's our duty. Prabhupada said it's our duty to go to India, get fired up, recharge our spiritual battery. He said we should work for 8 months a year in the West, and then go to India for 4 months. And just go to Mayapur Dham, go to Vrindavan Dham, associate with the devotees, take some courses, get absorbed in the Shastras, go to the morning program with 1,000 monks, go to the evening program, Bhagavad Gita, Narasingha, Arti, beautiful Panchatattva, Radha Madhava, so many sannyasis, so many wonderful grihastas, brahmacharis. It's like, if you go to like Chamber of Commerce, I don't know if you have that here in Norway, Chamber of Commerce, where like people go to improve their business, you get opportunities to promote their business, you meet other connections, other business people. They have places like that in Canada and America. I'm sure there's some places that are conducive for people doing business and getting contacts and connections. So that's what it's like when we go to Mayapur, Vrindavan. You make so many contacts. While I just was visiting there, taking a juice, I met a nice devotee named Kishori, and he said, I would like you to come to Poland, I will pay your ticket. Please come. Really? Yes, please come and sing Hare Krishna there. Okay. Another godbrother said, Gaura, I'll pay your visa and I'll pay your ticket. Just come to Russia. You'll love it. Really? So that's what I'm just saying. The association with the devotees in these holy places, they're most important. Anyway, I don't know, do I have 5 minutes more or how many more minutes? Okay, just tell me when to stop. Okay, so this is the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad that I had the great fortune to attend. Matter of fact, it says if you distribute a Bhagavatam there to a Brahmin on a full moon night, then you go back to Godhead. You go back to Spirit. So I purposely made a point of finding the Bhagavatam. And I talked to many different men, are you a Brahmin? Like, are you sure? Do you drink coffee? Do you smoke bidis? Oh no, I'm chanting my Gayatri, and no, I'm pure vegetarian from birth. Okay, here's your Srimad Bhagavatam. Keep going back to God. Of course, it takes a lot more than just that, but it's a nice investment in one's spiritual bank account. So in the short time that they had been in India, Srila Prabhupada's World Sankirtan Party had made an immediate and pronounced impact. So Prabhupada left America with his disciples with the idea of bringing them, he called his Western disciples white dancing elephants. To have a white elephant, it's very expensive to keep a white elephant around, but they're considered to be very, kind of prestigious or special. And so Prabhupada's idea was that the people of India, they were losing their culture. They were like trying to imitate the Americans. They wanted Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Bollywood, version of Hollywood, and now McDonald's is there, and so much insanity is being imported to India. But Prabhupada's idea is if he could take us North Americans or Europeans and inspire us to become sadhus, holy people, then the people of India will perk up. And it's true, they have. And Prabhupada said that America is like a blind man because, spiritually speaking, people are just absorbed in how to get more money, to buy more stuff, to have more sex, and eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, to the exclusion of cultivating spirituality. But it has wealth. I've heard many people come to Norway because there's some wealth here. And India is compared to a crippled man because they've, to some extent, deviated from their rich culture. But they have the wisdom, they have the knowledge. So if you put the crippled man on the shoulders of the blind man, then they can have a very successful relationship. So similarly, combining Norwegian Kronos with Krishna conscious culture, then we can have a beautiful temple here. And even more than a beautiful temple, we can have a rural community in the countryside with cows, growing our own vegetables for Krishna. God, this is the direction that Prabhupada wanted us to go. 40 years ago, he told us, these cities will not last for much longer because the economy is not based on the local production of food. He told us this 40 years ago, that 50% of his mission, which was to acquire some land, a cow and a bull, he said this is a symptom of a wealthy man or woman. If you have a bull, a cow, and some land, then bye-bye, grocery store. We don't need you anymore. We figured it out. We're becoming Brahmins. Brahmins means the intelligentsia in society, people who have brains and we use them. If we don't use our brains, then we have to use our arms more or our legs more. But people who are Brahminical, they're very thoughtful and they're reflective. They can see how artificial the economy is all over the world today. How it's all based on killing so many poor women and children to steal oil reserves out of the Middle East. I guess you don't have to do it here because I heard you have your own oil. But still, we want to set an example for the rest of society. So it's very important that, there's so many people all over Denmark doing eco-villages. I don't know what's going on here in Norway, but it's all over Denmark. There's many, many eco-villages. Like, people are getting it. They understand it. We don't want to be a part of this society. We want to educate our children in the countryside. We don't want our children to be influenced, by drug, sex, and rock and roll or whatever is going on here. So this requires a lot of cooperation and vision. And we need to find people who are actually farmers, who know what they're doing. Because if you take a bunch of city slickers and throw them out in the countryside, and you see a lot of time people bring all their city habits with them into the country. You know what I mean? Because so in Copenhagen, we're very fortunate. Our temple president, Lalita Nath Prabhu, is coming from a farming family. He knows all, as a matter of fact, you can't stop him from growing food. He's growing food all over the place. And he offers it to Krishna. So, yes, we need to follow that example here as well. Prabhupada wanted this. I'll just read a bit more about Kumbh Mela here. So, no other Swami, Guru, or guide from India had ever succeeded in not only inducing masses of young people from the materialistic West to dedicate themselves to an orthodox practice, Bhakti Yoga, but also in bringing them back to India, chanting and dancing enthusiastically. Knowing that a rare and auspicious event, the Ardha Kumbh Mela, was occurring in Allahabad in mid-January, Srila Prabhupada felt it would be a perfect venue at which to introduce his Western students to the masses of people who would attend. So this word Ardha, sir, you look like you're from India.
Half.
Huh?
It means half.
It means half. So why are they saying half of Kumbh Mela?
It is twice. One is every 12 years.
Okay.
And then this, I think, is like every year or 6 years.
Every fourth year.
Every fourth year. Thank you. So Kumbh Mela is the greatest congregation of human beings on earth. Every 12 years in Allahabad, sadhus and pilgrims from all over India gather at the Triveni, the confluence of the three holy rivers, Ganges, Yamuna, and Saraswati. And at an auspicious time that assures the worshipper liberation from the cycle of birth and death. As many as 15 million people enter the sacred waters. Matter of fact, when you're there, you're lucky if you can even find a place to get into the water. It's so jam-packed. But it really has an impact on you, because when you go and you attend the Kumbh Mela and you see how dedicated these people are to spiritual culture, it's like you realize how dense and dull and disconnected people are in the West, and how we owe it to them to, Jeev Jago, help wake them up somehow or other. So a smaller version, the Magh Mela, takes place annually during the month of Magh, December, January. January of 71, however, happened to fall halfway through the 12-year cycle from one Kumbh Mela to the next. And the Mela was known as Ardha Kumbh Mela. Millions would attend, and Prabhupada decided to take advantage of the opportunity and attend the Mela with his disciples to preach. The Mela committee had given ISKCON a good location near one of the entrance gates, and a few of the experienced devotees engaged workers in setting up the tents. ISKCON's pandal, or stage, was large and brightly colored, with 3 smaller tents close by. So Indra Swami, he's doing such a program all over Poland, and not just Poland, but is it the Baltic states, or where else does he?
Gujarat also.
Oh, he's now going to Gujarat. But in Europe, where is he going?
Poland.
But no, also Croatia
I
or
heard
other
Brazil
places?
and New
Used to
Zealand
do
and
something in
Brazil.
Spain.
In Spain too?
Spain also.
Uh-huh. So we're doing these types of big Hare Krishna. And of course you have your Rath Yatra here in July, is it? Or-
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
5 more. Can we? 5 more minutes?
oh yeah, I can finish up in even less. So a flimsy shack of okay. So 3 tents were made, one for men, one for women, and one for Prabhupada. A flimsy shack of corrugated tin served as a kitchen. Prabhupada was to arrive the next day, and the devotees worked quickly, putting down hay and rolling out dhuris, large carpets of coarse cotton fabric. The devotees would have to build their own fires, gather their own vegetables, wash their own clothes, and do everything for themselves, all in the middle of a cold, barren sand flat. It was a far cry from being served like princes at a life member's home. What's that saying? Carry water and forget the slogan. But it's about simple living. It's very good for us. It's very good to carry fresh water and not just expect everything to come out of a faucet all the time. Because it's so easy to take for granted. When you live in a city with so many comforts, it's so easy to take all of that for granted. So does anyone have any thoughts on anything we read? Or, yeah?
I just want to say that the Kumbh Mela is, it's every year as it says, but it's in 4 different places.
Uh-huh.
And every 12th year, there's a big one in Allahabad. It's in Haridwar, in Devprayag, and in Prayag, and then in Prayag, Allahabad, and then in Nashik, down in Maharashtra.
Yes, I'm going to be ready.
For these 4 places.
Nice.
This year it was in Nashik.
Did you go?
No.
So this is our Mela here, our Oslo Krishna Conscious Mela. Thank you very much for supporting this temple and helping the dedicated devotees here who are trying to help spread the auspicious message of Lord Krishna to all the people of Norway. Prabhupada would say giving Krishna consciousness is not one man's work, it's a team effort. And the more we give it, the more we get it, the more we experience it. So what's next?
Kirtan?